Okay, so basically, like I will explain like how to onboard the inbound connection
Mm-hmm.
into Okta, right?
Okay.
So the inbound connection means like identity, like we are using where we use only the SAML based protocol, right? So
Mm-hmm.
SAML based protocol perspective, what is needed or how like the flow would look like. Okay? So that I will explain. Just- So that will be under this identity provider section. Okay, so Okta is specifically providing some like the mechanism for us to add a different identity providers. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
not only the SAML or OADC, even like different identity provider, custom plugins, OOB plugins, everything is available. Okay, so that will be under the security and identity providers. Okay. So in this case, in the inbound connection case, Okta will be acting as the service provider, and the identity provider is going to be a SAML based any other different organizations IDP.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here, if you see in the add identity provider section, we can select like different uh, plugins, or you can say like the different IDPs. Okay, so like for our purpose, like I have used the SAML 2.0 IDP. Okay, by default all the applications will be using this OIDC based protocol only. Even though it's a OOB plugin, like the default, like it's going to use the OIDC based protocol, but the mappings or the any rules, or like the endpoints configurations and all will be present on this OOB plugins by default. Okay, but in SAML or OpenID Connect, so we have to specifically provide what is the identity provider. If any identity provider is not listed here, then we have to supply it here. Okay. So now I selected the SAML identity provider. Okay. So in any IDP perspective, when we did this outbound connection, right? So what we did was like we created or onboarded the SAML application in Okta. Then SAML perspective, we have shared the Okta metadata to the application. Okay, and application will be using that Okta metadata or the endpoint informations that is present in the Okta metadata to configure the details. Okay, so the same thing that we also needed for your CA SiteMinder to Okta migration also. Let's say like any organization has been onboarded in CA SiteMinder for the login, you need to understand like for what all applications that particular IDP is used. Okay, and for what and all attributes they are going to pass. Okay, so that is going to be commonly attributes. Okay, and what is the certificate is being used, and what is the sure URI. Okay, same kind of sections will be available in CSI even though it's on-prem, and the same kind of sections are like the details like so these are all the standard protocol, right? So the issuer URI, if it is named as issuer URI in Okta, it will be named as the same issuer URI in CS SiteMinder also. Okay, so the same details we have to fetch it from the CS SiteMinder and populate it here. Okay, and even the certificate, it should be in a CR format or BM or DR encoded format. Okay, so those details we need to populate. So once those details has been populated, then like then will be like the mapping. Okay, so I already populated those details. Here if you see, I have already populated those details. And so once we have populated and configured everything, then Okta also will be providing you the certain information like the metadata or the like the endpoint information. Okay, so this metadata we need to share it to the applications. Here the application means I mean the IDPs. Okay, so here if you see, so this metadata is the Okta IDP, Okta SP metadata. SPSSO descriptor means it's an SP metadata, right? So this metadata we need to share it to the organization or the IDP. So they have to reconfigure or remove the CA Sidefinder endpoints to configure this. This complete metadata is enough for them to configure at their end. Okay, so no other details, no other major details needs to be provided. This metadata itself will contain what is the endpoints and what is the certificates or what are all the entity ID. Those informations will be present in this metadata itself. So this is the like we need to concentrate on what we need to provide them. Okay, and you need to understand whether we need to onboard the users. So this all the connections that we talked about is the like single sign-on perspective. But what about the provisioning, right? So maybe like in your you will be moving all the users present in the CA SiteFinder directly to Okta using any import mechanism or connecting directly to any directory servers. Okay, but let's say like you wanted to create the users on the fly. Okay, so which is called the just-in-time provisioning. Again, this is the standard term for the SAML 2.0 protocol or any like the IDP based like the inbound connection. So this account mode I have set it as the just-in-time provisioning. So there's a just-in-time provisioning means the users will be created on the fly. If the user account is not present in Okta, it will be created. If it is present in Okta, there will be an automatic linking will happen. Okay, so all those settings and all like it's just an enable or disable buttons only in Okta. Like we need not to do anything much here. So like like the all the settings that is applicable or needed for us based on the CS segment configuration, that we can see if any OOB is present for that. Okay, so most of the use cases and all the Okta has done this as a single checkbox like OOB things only. Okay, so here if you see they have populated this IDP issuer URI and IDP sign on URL. Basically, like I have used my Azure as the IDP identity provider to log into Okta and access the any of the applications that being connected to Okta. Okay. And and like so here once I have done this, then you need to make sure like what is the username is going to be. Either it's going to be the subject name id. Subject name id means I will show you how it will look like in saml token, whether it's a subject name id or any other details or any other mapping that we need to do. So that can be done it here, like for example subject name id plus at the rate subject name qualifier. So like any other addition or the string modification can be done it here. Okay, so which this express language reference also will give us here, give the details. And then like again the profile mapping means it's a claim mappings only. Okay, so in the claim mappings we are going to define what is the attribute name that we are going to receive from the external idp. Okay, so they can name it something like first name or first underscore name or like the given name. So it's up to idp to name what is the attribute. Okay, so that attribute we are creating it here and we are doing the mappings for the that attribute to what is the attribute that is present in okta user profile. Okay, so this means like when we do this mapping it here like this, like when we receive in the sample token the given name that will be mapped to first name. Okay, and here if you see the app user.name, if in the saml attribute there is an attribute called name, so that name attribute will be mapped to email address. Okay, so similar way, like like the all the attributes, like for all the attributes we can do this mapping in this section. So which is going to be a simple no code thing only, like we just have to get to know like what is the attribute name that the idp is going to pass. So these things that you need to collect it, or you need to get it from the ca segmenter, or you need to collect it by connecting to the uh, organization idp. We need to know like what is the attribute name that we are going to pass, and what is the attribute name that needs to map it to the okta user profile, whatever be that mapping, that we can do it here. And once that mapping is done, then like a few other things that we can do is like um, we can write the rules. Okay, so here in the identity provider section itself, we have something called routing rules. Okay, so this routing rules purposes, like like we can define for which application which idp can be triggered. We can, for example, something like OIDC outbound application which we created yesterday. Okay, so for that application we can invoke only the okta login screen, or for that application we can invoke the this idp, the azure login screen, or we can invoke all the three, and users can select any of the options from all the three. Okay, those kind of rules can be written here. Or we can write a rule something like domain list on login. Okay, for example, like if a user on a okta login screen, if he enters something like um, sydney .com, okay, at the rate enrico at the rate sydney.com, okay, with the domain, based on the domain name we can direct to an idp, whatever be the configured IP, a single idp we can direct, like we can, if the sydney, if we see the username as the username entered by the user as sydney.com, then we can direct the user to a specific idp or the specific organization idp for them to log in. Okay, so like basically like the organization email address, based on the organization email address we can directly take the user to organization login screen. Okay, so those kind of customization can also be done in the routing rules. Okay, and like the user's profile created by the identity providers will be different from what is being created um, in okta directly. Okay, so here if you see this profile is created via this Microsoft login. Okay, and here we can directly see whether it has been sourced from which idp, whether it is sourced from saml 2.0 idp, or whether it's sourced from Microsoft. Those, the details can be listed in here. Okay, so those things also you can get to know. The attributes be displayed here. Here if you see, I will show you the flow on what is happening via the network trace. Okay. So this is the OIDC application which we onboarded. Okay. So for example, you can consider this
Mhm.
as the Sydney application, which we already established a connection with Okta. Okay. So for this application, I want the token to be issued from Azure. Okay. Or the user is going to authenticate from the Azure and give us the token which will be created in Okta, and Okta will again issue a token based on the details that it has been retrieved from Azure. Okay. So this thing, so this thing, if you see, I already logged into Microsoft. Okay, so that's why I directly I'm seeing this thing. Um, like whatever be my Microsoft username for which I have session here, and since I already registered my authenticator, I will be asked to enter my authenticator details. Okay. So these things and all you can customize. We can customize in Okta, or we need to know from the customer whether we need to show the authenticator login after the successful Microsoft login, whether we need to do that any other two-factor authentication for the users to log in, or the two-factor is not needed. So those things, and generally, like even though the users get authenticated from the external IDP, generally they will enable the two-factor for the users to register the two-factor authentication, and subsequent logins also two-factor will be needed. Okay. So but we need to make sure whether like your organization that we are going to create connection with, the two-factor is not needed or not. If it is not needed, then we have to adjust our policies accordingly. Okay, so if I use this token, then you can see something like this. Okay, so what is the email address and preferred username, given name? So all this information I received from Microsoft. Okay, not directly from uh, this thing. I mean um, the Okta. Okay, in Microsoft, what I will do is like the Microsoft this thing. I will register the application. So as we did it for the SAML in our Okta SAML application, we registered, right? So in Microsoft, we will register the SAML application. Okay. So in order for them to register into the SAML application, they also needed some certain details, right? So those details that you can give it to them by after integrate. So which is that metadata. Okay, security. Um, Entity providers. Here, if you see this thing, this metadata, we can provide it to them, or we can provide this assertion consumer service URL and audience URL. Only these two values are mandatory for them for any IDP to onboard. But if they needed the metadata, we can give them the metadata. Otherwise, only these two details is suffice to create or onboard the applications. Here, if you see, I have onboarded one application, like the SAML application. Here, if you see, I have added this URL, what is the Okta URL, which I collected from here. Okay, and the redirect URL. Again, it's going to be the redirect URL is nothing but it's the assertion consumer service URL. Okay, so that URL can be added here. It's only those two information needed, and any like application registration, the IDP also should provide us um, the metadata. Okay, just a second. Registration device. So when we have onboarded with the Okta URLs, like the Azure also will provide us the metadata, the federation metadata. Again, like the SAML perspective, that the two parties, the identity provider the service provider has to exchange their metadata, and whether it's going to be the outbound or the inbound. Okay, the role will be differing. Like the inbound, Okta will act as the service provider. Then we have to share the service provider metadata to the application, and, from CA segment or from the IDP, they have to provide one metadata. So again, this metadata will give the entire information about the configuration, like what is the entity ID and what is the certificate that we can import, and what is the sign on URL. Okay, so these informations which we populated here will be present here itself. Okay. And basically, like in the routing terms, we see here.
Can you also show me, like, if I want to, like, for example, on board, like, if I want to, like, have an application, and how can I select an IDP, right?
Hmm.
So that part I didn't see that yet, like from the beginning.
Yeah, let me show you. You already got signed in. I can
Hmm.
just log out. Done. Yeah, just a second. Yeah, sorry. Let me log out. Since I logged out, now I will try to trigger the login again. Okay. So here, if you see now, this when I try to access that application, it has listed me all the flows, like whether the username based to login or via the different IDPs which I created, right? So I had to Microsoft. Like I just created it for my testing. One is for Azure and another is Microsoft, right? So these two identity providers has been listed here.
So in
Okay,
my,
and
yeah, Okta, the identity provider also has to be connected, right?
yes,
Okay, okay.
identity provider, we need to establish the connection. So for establishing the connection only, we have to follow these steps. like and the identity provider,
Okay, great.
and from the SAML routes that we have to
Yeah, you
SAML
showed me. Yeah,
metadata we have
yeah,
to.
that part I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm clear.
Yeah, so once like we have selected, then it will we will be taken to the organization login page. So it will be taken like this. Okay.
Mhm.
Whatever be the organization's login page. I think I have a sign in here. Here if you see, I got redirected to password again. What's that? So from this organization sign-in page, we have to provide the our credentials, the organization sign-in credentials, in order to log in. Okay. And it will provide the SAML token to Okta, and Okta will sign in the user here. And if the user is already present, it will automatically link that particular user. Okay, link the user, and then instead of creating, it will link the user. Okay. So these things and all you may have to get to know, like when the SAML perspective, since it's only the application, but your SOW didn't talk about the user migrations and all, how you are going to migrate, or whether that will be in your scope or something. Like the user migration or the onboarding into the Okta platform, or whether we use any connectors or any directories present to link it to the Okta directly, in order to bring all the users of your organization into Okta. Okay. So currently, if you see, there are only two users, right? I mean, I don't know, like how you will onboard all the users using any APIs, or
You
you will
remember
connect directly to any directories.
the workspace 3, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
I
Okay.
mentioned to you about workspace 3. Do you remember? So they has to
Yeah. So
migrate
there you mentioned about the APIs, and the API protections via the Okta has been
Epic. A
talked
big.
about.
Okay, let me open it. Hold on.
Okay.
So the thing is how, yeah, that is the question. How the user is been like in my workspace. So there's three workspace. So the workspace
Mm-hmm.
that is assigned to,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't have, there is no mention of user there,
Hmm.
right? Like how they're gonna migrate, how they're gonna migrate the user. Okay. So
Yeah. So without migrations, you cannot also test it out in your non-production. You can test it with some test users, but it will not be effective like
yeah,
testing with
so
the
this
real
is,
time.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna ask this question in the
Okay.
yeah. So let me mm, show you. What do I say? Okay, let me send it in WhatsApp. Okay, you can read it.
Okay.
Yeah, it is kind of, yeah, you can read it. But it doesn't talk about the user. The workspace theme is all about taking from ping to Okta. I send you on WhatsApp. Take a look.
Health APIs from Ping to Octo. So the cheap overboard API management. lot of things are mentioned. You don't understand it.
Yeah, this is
Talk
not
about
my
sale
this is not
point.
my workspace. So somebody else is
What
doing
is
it.
it? Okay. It runs each integrations through standard life cycle plan, discover, design. Yeah, they didn't talk about
Yeah, so I'm
APIs
just saying
only, not the.
I'm gonna talk about the user, right? Like where the user is
Mm,
coming because Workspace 3 doesn't talk about users, right?
yeah, they didn't talk about users.
It does or it doesn't?
No, no, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, so I'm not asking the meaning, but the one we can test, I think the testing is gonna be through maybe they might have a sample client or
Mm,
a
yeah.
sample user, or we can do the.
No, sample users and all we can create it. That is not a
Mhm.
problem. Like just test users we can create, and those test users also we need to make sure whether those users or the email address will be present in the end application. So that is what we have to make sure, like in Okta that we can create. Okay, so whatever the users that is being created, those users also should be present in the application end. If they're not following this like the just-in-time provisioning or something, so this users or email address, with the email address, those details should be present in the application end also.
Mm.
So like we can create it at our end, but it is better to get clarified whether we need to migrate the users present in the non-prod to the same non-prod for all the applications to test, because this login also will be used by your end applications, right? So the end applications also wanted to test it. So like for each users, for each things we cannot keep on creating. So whether to migrating from non-prod CSI Minder to non-prod Okta, or what is the approach that we have to follow, that you can get clarified.
Yeah, 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 sure. Okay, do you have anything else to show or you're good?
Yeah, I think for now I'm good. But anyway, like I believe like once you get into more meetings or get an access, you will get more doubts. So at that point, we will discuss if anything. Okay.
Okay, one thing I need to see is I'm still not okay. Okay, go ahead and open the Okta, create an application, right? That I need to see
Okay.
that part a little bit. Okay, so yeah, so create an directory.
Okay.
So create application. So for even for the inbound, we have to use SAML 2.0, right?
Inbound is different place.
Okay,
Okay.
so
So this application section is only for the outbound,
mhm.
and for the inbound is here, like security
Oh,
and identity providers. Yeah. In security
so
identity
okay, okay,
providers,
I
here you can
get
keep on
it. But
creating.
the one thing I'm kind of missing in my head, right,
Mm-hmm.
is for example, they tell me, okay, this is application. Let me see. Let's assume that this application, um, this is application ADP, for example, right? So
Mm-hmm.
application ADP gonna will be have a separate identity provider, like it will be connected to Microsoft, right?
Mm.
So so how do I create the application Microsoft and how do I connect it? No, so how do I make the application ADP and how do I connect with Microsoft? as an
Okay.
IDP.
So let's say like the Microsoft we already
Yeah,
connected
yeah,
like
that
this.
part I know.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
And the applications that we have to onboard here, the application section,
Hmm.
applications. Okay. And here we'll create the app integration and we'll
Hmm.
select this SAML 2.0. So this is
Hmm.
for the outbound, right?
Hmm.
Um, and here we will fill out the details like
ADP, you can name.
ADP. Okay. And ADB has to provide all this information for you to populate it here. Okay, so the single sign-on URL, whether if they provide you the metadata or whether you can collect it from the this thing. I mean the particular CSI vendor. So the
Okay.
sign-on URL and the entity ID. Okay,
Hmm.
and like once we have populated it, then we are good to go.
Where do I connect the IDP? What step?
Okay, so this step will help you to onboard the application for the outbound connection. Okay, in
Okay.
the app integration. Okay, and in the app integration itself, the claims mapping that we can perform. Okay, so here if you see, we have the claims mapping, right? So sign on and the sign on methods, general, and whatever be the claims mapping that we have to do. Right?
Okay. And then where do I
The
connect this
first
this
name.
Microsoft
Okay,
to?
and yeah, so when we have to connect it here in the security IDP section, identity providers. Where is that? Security identity providers and the routing rules. So we can define a new rule. Either we can define a new rule or we can use the existing rule itself. Okay, here we can define like use specific IDPs or the application. You can select the application. What is the application?
Oh,
Application. Okay.
we write it ADP here, right? Is that's the one?
Yeah, ADP actually like I didn't create it. Uh, I just I mean I'm just using something which is already being created.
Oh, okay,
Okay,
okay, okay,
so
okay,
that will
okay,
be
okay.
listed here. Application
Okay, okay.
A being created and user matches if the user is trying to access this application and what is the IDP that
Okay,
you
what
wanted to
is this?
invoke.
Oh, okay.
So
So,
only
okay,
this,
okay, okay.
only this,
Oh, okay.
and
I
then
think you
update root.
showed me that
That's
before. I just couldn't connect. You
yeah,
showed
yeah,
me this before.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
this rule will help you on customizing any perspective, like whether it's going to be based on the direct connection or any rule based, like for any set of users that we have to create the direct to this IDP or any based on the domain. So
Mm,
all those things we have to do it here in the edit rule section.
mm.
We have all the customization like even with the in zone with specific users IP, whatever be the platform devices like the Android or Windows, and any of the following applications like the applications list you can select, right? And users matches any of the login like you can write a regex or the attributes you can select. Login starts with some expression, something you can give. Okay, like Sydney.com, something like that. Okay, then it will invoke that particular IDP.
Okay, I think I understood.
It's
Can
like
you
user
give
will
me?
be redirected to that particular IDP.
Yeah. All right. I'm think good. I think let me watch it, and then I think when if there's additional meeting needed, this is like before I start the job, I kind of know what is happening, right? So I have an idea right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is a good lesson. One thing that I need from you, and then I'll pay the last amount. Like there's one more installment left. In the Excel sheet, right? If you can, in the Excel sheet, if you can, for those three patterns, I think you already gave for two patterns, so one is left.
Mm,
Yeah, this
mm.
three pattern, if you can somehow like also separate the sheets as well, right? So sheet one
Okay,
will be for OIDC. OIDC, what are the parameters I need? And then
okay,
for inbound SML, what are the parameters I need? For outbound SML, what are the
okay,
parameters I need? If you can separate by every sheet, I think that is golden. I think,
okay,
yeah.
okay. Sure, sure. I will give it to you. Okay, like
Yeah, yeah,
we'll
I
separate
think good. I'm
what
gonna
is the
watch.
details that you have to collect from
Yeah.
CSI Minder, or one what is the details that we have to collect from Okta to give it
Mhm.
to the different parties. Okay, so those two sections for all the three patterns I will give it. Okay.
Okay. And I'm using Claude. What do you think for this kind of work? Is Claude helpful, do you think?
Yeah, Claude will be helpful. It will give you some ideas on onboarding things and
Mm.
all. Um, uh, but like on summarizing any videos, like officially, ideally it will be helpful, right? You can use it, but it will not 100% we cannot say that could be 100% accurate, but it will be useful only. You can use that.
Okay, thank you, man. Thank you very much. Have a good night. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Thank you. Bye.